Hey, hello and welcome to Military and Aerospace Electronics Tech Summit Quick Chat with Pentek Inc. in Upper Saddle River, New Jersey. I'm John Keller, Chief Editor of Military and Aerospace Electronics. Today's presenter is Roger Hosking, Vice President and co-founder of Pentek. So let's go right into it. We're going to be talking about Sosa, which is the Open Group's Sensor Open Systems Architecture. Roger, we're going to be talking about Sosa and what it means to the warfighter. So with the mandate in advancing open systems architectures and development of Sosa, where are we today and what role is Sosa playing as you see it, Roger?
Well, we have had a long time since the original government mandate for open systems architecture to drive procurement and system architectures going forward. Each of the three services developed their own ideas of how that open system architecture should be implemented for their own particular needs. And about four years or so ago, they decided that, gee, we're all kind of gravitating towards the same good things to get our job done. Maybe we should combine forces and have a more efficient and effective and a more unified open system architecture specification that we'll all work to, and then we can do some more sharing of different platforms, different hardware, different software architectures among the three services, and make it much more efficient, not only for us, for each of our individual organizations, but also for the government, and then of course, ultimately for the warfighters. I mean, that's the whole idea. So that was the initiative for starting SOSA, the Sensor Open System Architecture, which is managed and run by the Open Group. And that is now proceeded through the last several years to refining the principles and the specs and the architecture of what SOSA envisions for these new OSA, Open System Architecture platforms, to the point where we are a few, maybe a month or a little bit longer away from having the first issue of the technical standard issued by SOSA that will then become a document to which procurement requirements can be specified, and to which vendors and manufacturers in the industry can build products, have them certified, and go forward from there. So it's very exciting. A lot of work has been done. The industry, the armed forces, DOD, academia have all kind of joined forces together behind this, and so there's quite a large community of people contributing to the SOSA effort, and it's now coming to fruition in this standard that's about to be released.
Well, Roger, when it's actually released in a month or so, I mean, what's really going to change by then? Will the embedded computing community, will they be doing anything different from what they're doing now? Will we be able to say things are SOSA certified instead of SOSA aligned? What's really going to be the turning point when the actual standard is released?
What will happen is that today, as we're moving towards this goal, we each of us vendors can claim to be SOSA aligned, but we can't claim to be SOSA certified. And so, as you said, once the standard is released, there will be a procedure for obtaining the certification testing, which will be done by third-party companies that will make sure that the products that are proposed by vendors for conformance certification really do meet all of the requirements that are listed for that particular class of products that are defined within the SOSA standard itself. So that will definitely change. And then how will that affect everyone? What we'll see coming from the government is more contracts being issued for SOSA conformance, and in that way, vendors will be able to bid on those contracts, and the ones that have the most SOSA content are likely to be the winners of those contracts, of those bids. Their bids will win. So this is how it will change the business aspect going forward for the embedded community. and it's got a pretty good runway, and it's about ready to take off, I think.
Okay. Well, what are some of the existing standards that SOSA accommodates and takes advantage of, and how will that work?
Well, for the hardware, it's largely dominated by VITA standards for OpenVPX and other VITA standards that are related to OpenVPX, which include, by the way, the VITA 49.2, which is the Transport Radio Protocol for protocol definition of packetizing digital RF signals. Of course, a lot of the VITA chassis cooling, airflow through, conduction cooled, and different types of thermal management, those are embodied and those will be adopted. There's also a VITA 46.11, which is a chassis management or a platform management specification for managing the resources within a particular system, a card cage full of boards, so that there will be health monitoring, there'll be status monitoring, there'll be other integrity checks to make sure that all the boards are behaving as they should and are present in the system. So those are some of the things that are related to OpenVPX that will come from VITA. But there are other standards such as Red Hawk, which is a software platform that's been widely adopted by, again, all of the three services. There's a lot of the FACE standards are being adopted, and other predecessor standards like Victory and CMOS and Mora. Each of these different other standards, parts of them are being adopted within SOSA. And the ones that are being adopted are the ones that have proven worthy enough to be a part of the SOSA collection of standards because they satisfy particular needs that have been defined in the SOSA mission and initiatives.
Well, Roger, when you look at some of the standards, previous standards that SOSA is adopting, I realize that SOSA is concerned about simplicity. It's concerned about not having a proliferation of standards. In that move towards simplicity and keeping the number of standards to a manageable level, has there been anything lost technologically, do you think?
It is a trade-off. Previously, because there were so many OpenVPX, VITA 65 OpenVPX configurations and profiles available for boards and chassis and so forth, it was very hard for vendors to say, this is the right one, this is the right one, that's the right one, because they tended to be spread out across all of those, driven by, perhaps in some cases, vendors who were strongly promoting one particular configuration over another vendor that might not be. So now, in the SOSA technical standard that is not yet approved, it's upcoming, there will be only a handful of, say, 3U VPX boards and 6U VPX boards that will be within that standard. Yes, they will have different options, each of which will be individually itemized and listed. So the subset of the VITA 65 OpenVPX is a much, much smaller part adopted by SOSA, so that it'll be more focused and more consistent across platforms to have the same types of boards with the same profiles, and thereby more or less standardize on what those preferred boards and profiles will be.
Okay. Well, Roger, within the defense community, can you think of any specific examples of where SOSA technology is really taking hold, where it's going to be most beneficial, and where do you think we're going to be seeing some of the first SOSA design-in case studies?
Yeah, there's a good example. Imagine that you have an airborne radar system, and it's been designed according to the upcoming SOSA technical standard. What will happen when a new threat emerges that aircraft has to become capable of tolerating, even acting perhaps as a countermeasure or to gain and gather information from a new type of radar system that might be more robust than the previous one, harder to defeat. With the standardization that Sosa delivers, you will be able to perhaps replace one plug-in module with another one of the same type in terms of its profile, that is, its Sosa definition, but with different and new capabilities that have been added inside the Sosa module. And this gets to why the Sosa concept uses what's called the gray box concept, which means a Sosa module defines its inputs and output connections extremely well, but it does not specify exactly what's inside the box. What is definition of exactly what it does, how it connects, but not necessarily how it's done inside. So you could replace an older module with a new module, a new plug-in card, and have that radar system on that aircraft upgraded to have new capabilities and to be able to withstand new radar countermeasures or attacks, or become more agile in avoiding perhaps some kind of a attack on that aircraft. So it's that kind of very quick and very efficient replacement of older technology with newer technology, and the ability to reuse the rest of the platform that's there without having to replace the whole platform just because you need to have a new capability on that particular aircraft. So it's going to be less expensive. It's going to have a lot shorter turnaround time to get that new capability implemented. And it's going to keep our warfighting team much more current, more easily than we've been able to do so before.
Okay. Well, are there any examples yet of real products being used that show SOSA interoperability and alignment to the standard?
Yes, we have a lot of vendors. There are probably hundreds of products now that are out there as Sosa aligned products. Last year, in January of 2020, we had an interoperability event down in Atlanta. I know you were there, John.
Mm-hmm.
And it was extremely well attended and generated a lot of interest. But working and kind of demonstrating the concept of Sosa is trying to promote. So these products that have been coming out in the more than 1 year since that event are now going to be candidates for certification once the technical standard is released, and there will hopefully be a rather short path towards gaining that certification, a true open vendor community.
Okay. So do you think SOSA is here to stay? And if it is, what's next?
Every sign is that it is. We're seeing such overwhelming support from the US DoD. They really want this to happen. And when they want something to happen, there's money behind it. There's contracts and procurement behind it. And that's what it takes, of course, to interest in the vendor community to be able to supply those products. So it will definitely happen. It's got good legs, and as I said before, it's off to a good start.
Okay, terrific. Well, that's all the time we have right now. So thank you, Roger, for your time today. Just as a reminder to our audience, that today's session will be available here within the Military and Aerospace Electronics Tech Summit platform for the next 30 days. So on behalf of Military and Aerospace Electronics Tech Summit and Pentek, we'd like to thank you for joining us today.